What's up, idols? It's CC Lesson 3. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Y'all, I was fully prepared to upload a story time today until literally a few hours ago, when I've realized today's video has to be a little bit different. This one feels a little bit more urgent, in my opinion, because this convicted rapist is roaming the streets of Korea free, and he is claiming to be innocent when he was indeed found guilty in the court of law. When I found out about this, I immediately searched his name to try to go on like Instagram and YouTube to see if anyone was talking about this. And nobody's talking about this, and I need to know why. This video is dark. I gotta admit, it's messed up. But to contrast the darkness, I would like to tell you guys that later today, I'm gonna upload a Patreon story time that is a follow-up to the Jimjilbang bathhouse in Korea hookup story time. It was highly requested to get a follow-up. She delivered, and that one's a good, wholesome, normal story between two consenting adults, unlike this one. So if you need some lightness to contrast this shadow, there's a link in my description to join my Patreon, and let's get right into it. So let me just back up for a second, because I haven't been on TikTok since like 2022. I dabbled in a little bit from like 2020 to 2022, so I'm very unfamiliar with all those trends and all the TikTok and stuff. He's like a really big TikToker. Apparently, he's the second most followed Korean person behind BTS on TikTok. Even to this day, after his conviction, he still has over 50 million followers. I don't have TikTok, so I can't look at it, but I have my homegirl screenshot his current numbers, like 54 million, 55 million, and he's still doing numbers, and people are still being so supportive of him. And I feel like a lot of people don't know what happened, because when he spoke about what happened, he downplayed it and did not deny it. Okay. So his full name is Seo Won-jung. Yeah. I don't know much about TikTok, but apparently one of his catchphrases is like mama. He shouts mama and people love it. Mama! He's from Daegu. He has a large global following. He's been invited to fashion shows in Milan. He's in high demand. He's a very successful social media personality. And everything was completely smooth sailing until 2023. So what happened exactly? On July 3rd of 2023, Won-jung suddenly stopped uploading on social media. People thought, oh, maybe he's experiencing burnout, maybe he's just taking a break, maybe he's unwell. But apparently he was under investigation for quasi R-wording a woman. In December of 2023, Korean media news outlets started to circulate stories of an anonymous influencer who was under investigation for R-wording a woman. They didn't use his name. They called him Mr. Saw. They called him Influencer A because that's what they do in Korea. So the story goes that one influencer was arrested, and also his friend was arrested alongside him because they both were accused of quasi R-wording a woman after a day of drinking together. So Korean sources kept him anonymous, but there's actually an Indian article who connected the dots and said, this is famous TikToker Seo Won-jung. According to the police report, a woman said she woke up to the sound of being recorded and realized she was R-worded by both Won-jung and their other male friend who was arrested. At first, Won-jung refused to even open the door for the police, so the fire department had to break the door down. So reports started to circulate that he would be facing up to 7 years in prison for aggravated R-wording. So later in December 2023, naturally as the stories began to circulate, fans were outraged. They're like, oh my God, he did what? No way, what a betrayal. So his TikTok account, I believe, was temporarily banned, but his YouTube account was allowed to stay live. So why am I talking about this now, you may ask? In March of 2025, he was convicted. He was found guilty by the Korean court of law for quasi R-wording this woman with another friend. There was one other charge where he was being accused of filming this woman as well, but there wasn't enough evidence for that. So those charges were dropped, but he was indeed found guilty. He is a convicted rapist. So initially, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison, but a second trial got that reduced down to 1 year and 6 months. And the victim agreed to settle, and it became a 2-year suspended sentence. So he serves no prison time whatsoever for what he did. So if you're familiar with my channel at all, we talk a lot about SA in Korea, and how sadly it's pretty normal for cases like this to end with a suspended prison sentence. What I hate most about this is it's so easy for the perpetrator to just get back to life as normal. There's no platform ban, there's no mandatory prison time, there's not even a mandatory like sex offender registry. Like there is a sex offender registry, but it's not mandatory. It's circumstance to circumstance. And also, just comparing to the States, for example, which doesn't have a great track record with this at all either. But typically, SOs face like 10 to 25 years to life being forced to register on this SO registry, right? In Korea, it corresponds to your prison sentence, right? So if you get a suspended sentence, it means you only have to register for 5 years. If your prison sentence is 6 months or less, then it's 7 years. If you're sentenced to 6 months to 2 years, then it's 10 years. If you're sentenced to any more than 2 years, and that is a lifetime registry, you're required to register for life as an SO. But we see how these cases typically end, and it almost always ends with a suspended sentence. So 5 years later, no one will know what you did. I'm really sick of the law not considering the victim. They always consider the perpetrator. He's never offended before. It was a one-time mistake. He's never had a history of this. His one mistake is a lifetime of trauma for the victim. That's not a mistake. That is a choice. A mistake is, oops, I fell. God damn. Oops, too much salt came out when I was making dinner. This was a choice. You chose to do what you did. Choices and mistakes are not the same thing. So he recently popped back up on TikTok as if nothing happened. He's being celebrated and welcomed back, and he even apologized, sort of. He appealed his conviction, by the way, and was rejected. The conviction was upheld. He is a convicted rapist. I cannot emphasize that enough. Despite how he keeps saying he's innocent, he is guilty in the court of law. So this is what he said online. I was found not guilty of the major charges that were reported. I never filmed the other party. I did everything I could to prove my innocence. Then why didn't you let the police in? Why did they have to bust the door down if you ain't do nothing wrong? And this is my favorite. I received a suspended sentence for part of the charges. I take responsibility for my poor judgment. How is this an apology or any sort of accountability when you can't even say what you did or what you're being charged of or what you've been convicted of? Instead, you say, I got a suspended sentence, like you're trying to downplay the role of what you did. If you didn't do it, why can't you say, I didn't rape her? You can't say that because it's not true. You did rape her. You were convicted for raping her. And I'm sure if he says, I didn't rape her, there are legal consequences and repercussions for that. So he can't outright say, I didn't actually rape her. He can say, I paid my part for the crime I was accused of. I'm innocent of the crime I was accused of. He's innocent, apparently, of filming her. But that, unfortunately, is like a he said, she said thing because she was passed out drunk and she says she woke up to the sound of being recorded. And I don't know if you guys know this, but in Korea, the shutter sound on your phone, you cannot mute or silence. So every time someone takes a picture or records, you hear it. You hear the shutter sound on the phone. I mean, that seems like a really specific detail for her to have and remember for it to not be true. But that's just my take. He could have easily... He has another phone that he didn't tell them about. He could have deleted that. You know, like there's ways around that. I lost my phone. Oh no. But another thing that pissed me off, and he brought it up in his apology when he was addressing why he was gone and what happened. There was a video circulating of a tattooed Korean man beating and stomping a Korean woman. And that guy was like convicted for what he did. He's like in prison for it now, I believe. But for some reason, people were saying this was Won Jung. I don't know why, but that was not him. And because it was clearly proven not to be him because he has no tattoos like the tattooed man in this video, he's like, see, I'm innocent. I had nothing to do with this. It was one of those things where he's like, see, I'm innocent of this. I didn't beat this woman. So people think he's innocent of whatever else he's being accused of. And that's what he meant when he said, I was found not guilty of the major charges that were being reported. It's just crazy because finding information on this was actually pretty difficult. I literally had to go through Reddit. I don't even do Reddit. It's my boyfriend who got me familiar with Reddit. I had to go through Reddit. I found a really good thread. I'll link it below. They also have like all their sources where they got all their information from. And there's not enough people talking about this. But in that Reddit post, they also said, if you don't believe it coming from us, you can simply search his name in Korean and find information about his conviction, his guilty conviction. Somoshi Yutue. Search this and you will find everything you need to know. This whole thing reminds me of the Dao Kim situation. Yeah, and it's funny because when I was talking with my friend about this, she thought it was the same guy. I was like, no. That was the guy pretending to be Muslim who tried to rape her, but he couldn't get it up, so it didn't work. But those situations are similar because she was asleep and he tried to force himself on her, but he couldn't perform because he was like drunk, sleeping it off, whatever. The police were involved in everything. There's a police report, everything. Like, he admitted to his guilt initially, but when he saw that so many of his fans were sympathetic and, oh, you were Christian then, you're Muslim now, so it's so much better, it's fine, we forgive you. Even though it's like, I'm sorry, did he try to like assault you in your sleep? If no, then the apology is not for you. It's not your place to forgive him. But initially he made a video apologizing. I'm sure it was put together by like his PR team. I don't know, because it was a pretty big YouTuber. Like, he still is. I think probably over 2 million followers at this point. Back then it was over 1 million. Eventually he decided to double back on that apology and say, no, this girl forced me to say I did these awful things, which You're a Korean man on Korean soil. You got home field advantage and you're the one with the platform, but somehow you're saying this girl was able to force you to lie about doing this? That makes no sense. But I feel like the same thing is happening now with this Won Jung guy, because he's just able to act like nothing happened. He is not outright saying I did not rape her, because he knows that's a lie. He was convicted of that. He's guilty of that. I apologize for my poor judgment. By the way, he was out with this girl, they were drinking, and then they had another friend. And then they both took this girl to another friend's house, and that's where they assaulted her. The other friend is actually like physically serving prison time, but him, for some reason, he got a suspended sentence. And the fact that he's like, I got a suspended sentence for my part, it's like he's trying to downplay what he did. Like, oh, I only got a suspended sentence. What I did wasn't severe enough to actually go to prison. But the way Korean law rules in these sorts of situations with SA crimes, it's like you're basically trying to say everyone gets one free. You get to assault one person for free, because if you've never done it before, if you have no record, no history of it, you will get a slap on the wrist for your first time. Do it again and you may receive a more heavy, severe prison sentence or criminal punishment. But everybody gets one freebie, one free. And it's made even worse when, like we said many times on this channel, quasi-rape is not punished as harshly as like rape. Because quasi means that they didn't have to physically resist you because they were inebriated, unconscious, unable to physically resist. So it's a lesser charge because you didn't have to force her, which is the dumbest thing ever. If you don't have consent, it's literally that simple. His first video back was of him just cleaning. He was cleaning his house like normal, and then he bowed to the camera, like no context whatsoever. There was actually some Korean comments that I really liked, people reacting to this, because it does seem like it's global fans who are more accepting and defensive of him, and Korean fans who are actually holding him more accountable of what he did and not making excuses for him. When translated, it says, money is the best. You can someone, settle, and get a suspended sentence, LOL. Another person said, would the judge have ruled the same if it were his own daughter? And another comment said, they her together, but the guy who brought her only got a suspended sentence while his friend went to jail. What the hell is this? Meanwhile, Western fans, he apologized, so just move on. People are trying to cancel him over lies. This is just haters trying to ruin his career. Welcome back, King. I knew you were innocent. He beat the false allegations. I don't know how to make this any clearer. The allegations are not false. Yeah, he was not that guy with the tattooed arm beating that girl in the elevator. Like, that wasn't him. Yeah, apparently the charges of filming her while they assaulted her were dropped. But he is, by all accounts, by the very definition of the law, a convicted rapist. He's not serving physical prison time because he has a 2-year suspended sentence, which means if he breaks the law within the next 2 years, he goes straight to prison. But he is a convicted rapist. I need y'all to know this. So stop with the welcome back, King. And listen, you can support who you want to support. That is your right. Everybody's going to spend their coins and spend their time however they want to do that. But I just need more people to know what he is convicted of, what he was found guilty of. He's not innocent. I just don't understand why there aren't more people talking about this. And one of the reasons I really wanted to talk about this is because, like I said, he has a suspended sentence. So if he is on the registry, it's only for 5 years. And he is currently roaming the streets a free man. So ladies, be careful. Like, whenever someone tries to make an apology video and they can't even say what they did, accountability where? A proper video addressing what happened would say, I was accused of QR and I was convicted of QR. I've since learned from my actions. It won't happen again. I apologize to the victim, yada, yada, yada. But like, to say, you can't even say what you did. That's what boils my blood. And even on this Reddit post, they were calling for anyone with a platform, no matter how big, how small, to talk about this so more people know, because he is literally doing his mama skits and acting all cute and innocent, like he didn't just get convicted for raping a woman. He's a convicted. So yeah, guys, that's it for this one. Like I said, I had every intention of uploading a story time today, but this just seems so much more important. So the story time I will upload Wednesday or Thursday. That will be good. It will be juicy. If you need more story times, like I said, today there will be one on my Patreon, the part 2 to the Jim Jabong hookup in Korea story. Also, there we have a lot of content that I can't put here because it's NSFW. There's certain scenarios and words and descriptions that will get the video automatically flagged and age restricted and demonetized if I put it on YouTube. But on Patreon, it is free reign and I can say whatever the fuck I want. See how I had to bleep that? I don't gotta do that on Patreon. So So this video may be a bit of a bummer, and I apologize if it is, but I just need to make sure y'all know what's going on. And much like what happened with Dow Kim, when I was suddenly bombarded with thousands of hate comments, and whenever you talk about someone with a bigger platform, you're at risk, you know, to some degree, because fans are feral. Oh my God, they're territorial. So I know he has his diehard fans, and they're gonna be like, you're spreading lies, it's misinformation, false information, fake news. It is out there. A simple Google search will show what he did. He's convicted. It's not a secret. I didn't make him do it. He chose to do it. Don't be mad at the messenger. This was the video I saw that made me go,
Like, imagine that you sexted someone, got found guilty in Korea for sexting that person, but because of the patriarchy, you got a reduced sentence, you didn't serve any jail time, and now you're telling 55 of your million followers that you were found innocent of major crimes. The major crime being that he wasn't found guilty of filming the woman that he sexually assaulted, but he was found guilty of. And if you go to this guy's comments, he's known as like the mama boy or whatever. If you go to his comments, his followers are flooded with him saying that he's innocent, he's not the man with tattoos, even though that literally irrelevant. He tries to deflect in his apology, if you're reading it right now, where he says that he's not that man because it's a completely different incident. Why would he be that man with the tattoo? I have no idea. But his following relies on the fact that they are such low IQ sheep. My heart goes out to the woman who he assaulted, because imagine you go through the court system and not only does he get to go back to making his stupid TikToks, but no one knows that he's literally a monster.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Annyeong.